Go.
Hi, Sam is here, BodyFit Cumbria. I'm about to go through some of the stretches, no, all of the stretches that we do after classes. These are the ones that we do after circuit classes and the older adult classes, but they're applicable to anybody, any of the time. Make sure that you've got the kit ready to use, mats, chairs, you need access to a wall, tie and some cushions, and then we'll just get started. I will be demonstrating seated, standing and kneeling versions, so just do whatever's applicable to you and feel free to share it with your friends. Okay, so to begin with, we're going to do a tricep stretch. So you're reaching up, you take one hand down your back, other hand on your elbow or here, and you're trying to get your arm, your hands as far down your back as you can. Try to keep your best posture. So looking for the stretch here, and remember you can also do this one in a seated position as well. So we're aiming to feel this stretch. Some of you are also familiar with using the wall. So you take yourself to the wall and lean against it. So I'm using my body weight to ease myself against the wall to get my hand a little bit further down the back. Okay, from there, whichever version you're doing, reach up and swap sides. So if you're standing, feel free to wander around. If you're seated, just be aware of what your posture's doing. Sitting up nice and tall, drawing your stomach muscles in, and remember you can ease back from there as well. We're going to hold that for a few more seconds. Remember to keep breathing. Okay, release out of that one into a chest stretch. So chest stretches, the easiest one is hands onto the small of your back, squeezing your elbows together. And again, you can do that seated or standing. If you're seated, you need to perch yourself on the edge of your chair so you've got room behind you to squeeze your elbows together. Remember to try and keep your chest lifted and your chin stays in neutral. So you're not lifting it up, keep it in neutral there. Some of you will be familiar with other versions, feel free to go ahead with that. And if the tension eases, just take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, try and squeeze your elbows together just a little bit more. Okay, well done. Release that. And then come up to standing. You're going into your calf stretches. So you're against the wall, take one foot back, press your heel into the floor, and I am using pressure against the wall to push my heel down into the floor. So I'm feeling a stretch in my large calf muscle here. So nice straight line from the crown of your head right the way down through your body. And if you can't feel the stretch, take your foot back a little more until you feel it, as I said, in the large calf muscle. Do keep pushing against the wall because that will help with the intensity of the stretch. And remember, all these stretches should be a little bit uncomfortable but not painful, never painful. Okay, swap sides, do the same on the other side, taking your heel back. Press your heel into the floor. So I'm only getting the stretch because I'm keeping the contact of my heel into the floor and I'm pushing against the wall. Holding it there for another few seconds. Okay, well done. Release that into your bent-legged calf stretch. So we're taking the stretch down towards our Achilles, our ankle area. So you're taking your weight onto one foot, bending the knee, and leaning your body towards the wall a little bit more until you feel the stretch right the way down here. So those of you that come to our classes, you'll know that we've got very different range of ability. I'm not particularly flexible in this area, so my knee doesn't go very far over the line of my toes, whereas some of you get your knee much further over. But the important thing here is to keep your heel in contact with the floor. Swap sides. So if you're doing that one, I've forgotten to show you the seated version. Some of you also do a seated version like this, and you've got downward pressure on your knee just to feel a little bit of a stretch through there. So whichever version you're doing, holding it for another few seconds. Can't remember what's next. Hip flexors, I think. Okay, and release that. Hip flexors, so that is front of hip here. We can do that seated. So if you're seated, you perch yourself on the edge of the chair, twist yourself round a bit, take one foot back and ease your hips forward until you feel the stretch in this area here. Some of you will feel it down there as well. Staying nice and tall from the crown of your head, stomach muscles in. So it's a perched version. You can also go down onto the floor from there. So have your block or your cushion, or you can do it unsupported, so your knees off the floor. Keep doing that while I get myself sorted. Okay, what I'd like you to do now is swap sides, so whichever version you're doing. So this is the full kneel-in version. I'm tall from here, easing my hips forward, feeling the stretch in this area. Keep doing that. Okay, and release. Okay, a little bit of a stretch for our back on all fours. If you're seated, I'll show you that version in a moment. What you're going to do is take a kneeling position. Remember, hands underneath your shoulders, knees are underneath your hips. Some of you use this position with your wrists instead. And what you're going to do is tuck your chin to your chest, arch your back up towards the ceiling, have a little stretch in that position, and gently go back in the opposite direction until you're hollowing. So you're arching and hollowing. Keep doing that, everybody, and I will demonstrate the seated version. So seated version, same thing, same principle. Drop your chin to your chest and arch, only the arch you're creating is towards the back of the seat. Then lift up and just come back to neutral rather than hollowing. So neutral being nice and tall, natural position with your back here. So chin to chest and rounding and arching and back up to the ceiling, nice and tall. Okay, from there you are doing a stretch for your forearms and your fingers. So if you're seated, you're doing this version, or you can do this. So you're interlacing your fingers and stretching forearms and through your fingers. Remember, if that's uncomfortable for you, you can just do a gentle stretch, one hand at a time. You can use your thigh here. Those of you that are on the floor, you are in this position and leaning forward, or you're turning hands that way and leaning backwards. Just keep doing whatever suits you for now. You can add a little movement into it. And remember, just come out of it whenever you feel that you need to. Okay, from there, our next stretch is hamstrings. Now at classes we encourage you to sit on a block. If you don't have blocks, use cushions. And the reason for that, it just makes the stretch more accessible for most of you. So it lifts your hips a little. Need more cushions. Lift your hips a little bit and helps to tip yourself forward. Can you just... Yep, thank you. Okay, so hamstring stretches, we're going to do both at the same time. So hamstrings are backs of legs. Faffing going on now. Right, need to restart that because I'm twisting and sliding. Let's do that again. If you know what you're doing, just keep doing it. Right, okay, so you're tall from the crown of your head, the tie that goes over the balls of your feet, and what you're doing is holding the tie with your hands and easing yourself forward until you feel the stretch underneath the backs of your legs here. If you can't feel it, pull up out of your hips and flex forward just that little bit more until you feel that tension. You can do one leg at a time if you want to, or both legs. And the seated version is on your chairs, same thing, either without the tie or with the tie, and again you can do one or both at the same time. It's entirely up to you. If you've been doing one leg, swap sides. And if the tension eases, take a deep breath in, and as you breathe out, go a little bit deeper into your stretch. Do be mindful of what's going on with your posture in your upper body. Okay, releasing that into outer hip stretches. So as I'm seated, I'm going to demonstrate that one first. For some of you, just a simple cross of the legs there with your lower leg crossing below your knee will get a stretch here. So I'm looking to feel the stretch on the outer hip. You can also make that harder by bringing your supporting leg closer to you and then leaning or gently easing with that stretch, with your forearm against your knee there. If you're seated, the version that we usually use in class is as follows. Again, you're seated on your cushions or on your block. Your legs are straight out in front of you to begin with. You lift one leg up over the other. You bring your heel as close to your hip as you can manage, and then you hug your knee in towards your chest. Some of you will only be able to get your foot there. Some of you will be able to get a lot closer. If you've been doing it for a while now, swap sides. So heel towards your hip, as close as you can manage, hugging your knee in towards your chest. So this knee is going towards my shoulder there, nice and tall, and if you're able to, rotate round a little bit, stretch on the outer hip. A few more seconds on that. Okay, inner thigh adductors. So that's the muscles here. The one we usually do in class is soles of your feet together. Your hands are going underneath your feet here, sitting up as tall as you can and flexing forward. For this one, some of you use 2 or even 3 blocks, and I'm looking for a stretch here on my inner thigh. So hold that if you're seated on the floor. The seated alternative is you're perched on the edge of the seat here. You take your legs as far apart until you get a little bit of a stretch here. Lean forward and use your forearms or wherever you can to just ease your legs a little bit further apart. And again, looking for a stretch here. Some of you won't be able to lean down that far, so you can do it using your hands in that position. Just do whatever's right for you. Just keep holding that position, please. And then from there into your lats, sort of under your arm, this area here. If you're seated, just be in a position whatever's comfortable for you on the floor. If you are on a chair, what I'd like you to do is reach up and lean over. So you get a stretch from under your arm down here. Some of you might feel it going across your hip a little bit as well. And you can support yourself on your chair there. You can also, of course, do this one standing and reaching over, or you can do it seated, on the floor. Keep reaching. You can look up towards your arm as well if you're comfortable. And same on the other side. So again, seated, if you want to, reaching up, leaning across, other hand for support, looking up towards your hand if it's comfortable to do, or standing. I quite like the standing version, looking up towards the ceiling, or seated on the floor. Okay, release that. What's next? Can't remember. Ooh, right, cross-legged on the floor, or we're going to do a lower back stretch. So if you're seated on the chair, folding your arms, chin to chest, and leaning forwards, and just holding that stretch there. If you're not comfortable in that position, support yourself here, and take a good deep breath and come up slowly if you're somebody who knows you get dizzy having been down in that position. Okay, if you're on the floor, you've got your legs crossed if that's accessible to you. If not, you just have them however it's comfortable for you. I'm going for crossed. We're going to flex forward and you're aiming to get your nose as close to your knee, nose as close to your lower leg as possible. Folding your arms and trying to get your arms onto the floor as well. Have a little wriggle round and just relax in that position, holding it there. Relax your head as well. Okay, deep breath in and slowly come up out of that. And then, those of you that can, the little trick that we do, cross your legs the other way without using your hands, and then do exactly the same again, holding it for about 30 seconds. So keep holding that, everybody, whilst I look at what's next. Where's Rachel when I need her? She's used to doing all these stretches. I'm now out of practice. Okay, we're doing quad stretches next. Quad is front of thigh, that's here. So if you are using the mat on the floor, you are lying down. Oops, don't kick the chair over. Your forehead is supported on your hand here. You are grabbing your heel and drawing it into your bottom. Those of you that find that position tricky, remember you do the side-lying version. You grab your foot here and draw it. Make a straight line as I've just done there. And some of you also use the tie as well to help. So keep doing that stretch there on that side, and I'll do a little reminder of the other version. So seated, sideways on, hold on to your chair, grab your foot or your trousers, or use the tie again. Same principle, you're looking for a stretch on the front of your thigh there. Right, whatever version you're doing, swap sides. So I'm going to be lying down. Some of you do a kneeling version as well. So remember, if you're face down, push your hips into the floor and gently draw your knee back. A few more seconds. And release that. From there, if you're lying down on the floor, turn over. And do remember, if in classes you usually have a block under your head, do exactly the same, but with your cushion. And what you're doing is hugging your knees in towards your chest. So have a little rock round in that position. If you are seated, what I'd like you to do is same thing, same shape, one knee at a time, hugging your knee into your chest, hug your other knee into your chest, and some of you do both knees at the same time because you're very clever and I'm not. So if you do both knees seated at the same time, carry on with that. So you're rocking around, knee to chest is the shape that you're making. And then from there, you're doing your rotational stretches. So on the floor, knees to chest and rock to one side. I'll show you that in a moment. Seated, you're pulling up out of your chest, opposite hand to knee, and other hand on the back of the chair or wherever you can to get that rotation. Make sure your knees are tracking over the line of your feet, and it's just a gentle twist. Keep holding that. So on the floor, you are knees to chest, hands out to the side, drop your knees to one side, and remember you can put downward pressure on your knees there to assist, and you can look in the opposite direction. Okay, swap sides everybody, and remember you can use your cushions to assist you. So if it's more comfortable, knees to chest, knees over to one side, supported on the cushions, hand, gentle downward pressure. Reach away with this other hand and get a nice stretch here. Some of you will feel it here, some of you will feel it there. And releasing that. And then finishing off with a full body stretch. So if you're on the floor, you're reaching, hands above your head, keep your chin in neutral, so you're not lifting it up, you're not tucking it right in. Reaching with your fingertips, feeling the stretch right the way down your body. And if you flex have your toes pointing up to the ceiling, you'll get a bit of a calf stretch. If you point your toes away from you, you'll get a bit of a stretch up the front of your shins. And of course, if you're seated, you can either do it in a seated position, or you can do it standing, going right up onto your tiptoes if you want to. Release out of that, and then just do it one more time into your stretch, and release. And then from whatever position you're in, take a nice deep breath in, Slowly sit yourself up. And thank you very much. That's Sam Ayres, BodyFit Cumbria. Join us next time, please.